Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Carlene Spry. I am the Awards Administrator for the Golden Crown Literary Awards. And I want to welcome you to our first ever series of Goldie Finalist Spotlights. Now, for those of you who are new to the Golden Crown Literary Society, the GCLS recognizes and rewards quality literary works about women who love women, and we provide learning opportunities, encouragement, and assistance to new and established writers. We have a highly respected writing academy, an annual gathering of hundreds of readers, writers, publishers, and editors. That is our annual conference, which is coming up this July. And we have a monthly GCLS members only online book club. We invite you to learn more about the GCLS and perhaps become a member by visiting our website, goldencrown.org. Now, just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We will have some time at the end of the session for some Q&A. We'll get to as many questions as possible. We hope you're going to have a lot of questions. So please be sure to use the Zoom Q&A box to submit a question. If you run into technical issues, please log off, then log back in. That will usually resolve most of the issues. Okay, that does it for announcements. We are thrilled to have Flashpoint Publications as our sponsor today. So let's take just a little bit of time to hear from our sponsor.
At Flashpoint Publications, it is our mission to bring LGBTQIA+ stories to life. In support of the growing multiracial and multi-age coalition of those who demand unbiased treatment and inclusion in all pursuits, we welcome you into our house. We support diversity within our works and welcome novels penned by and for all people. Flashpoint is a proud member of GCLS, and we wish to congratulate all the finalists, including our own authors, Tammy Bird and Kay Ayton. We hope to see everyone in person next year.
Okay, excellent. Flashpoint Publications, we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for being a sponsor. So now we're going to get started and listen to some fantastic readings. Let me introduce you to our authors today. First, we have Erin McKenzie, who will be reading from While My Heart Breaks, which is a finalist in historical fiction. And we have Brenda Murphy, who will be reading from On the Square, which is a finalist in contemporary romance short novels. Then we have Nanisi Barret Darnick, who is reading from In Helen's Hands, a finalist in erotic novels. Ginny Z Berson will be reading from Olivia on the Record, a radical experiment in women's music, a finalist in nonfiction. And Georgia Kalias, reading from The Feasting Virgin, a finalist in general fiction. So, yay to our authors. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to turn it over to Erin McKenzie. If you guys would just tell us very, very briefly about yourself, introduce your selection, and then share your reading with us.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm a school counselor and soccer mom by day, and when I have time, writer at night, I guess. My third novel is While My Heart Beats, not breaks, but beats. And I will introduce this a little bit. It takes place in France during World War I at a British military hospital. The main characters are a Scottish nurse and an English voluntary aid detachment volunteer. The passage I chose for you today is when they first meet. Joanna had just finished serving morning tea to the men in the surgical ward when the hospital matron found her. A new group of volunteers is coming in tomorrow, Sister Lennox, matron said. I'd like you to meet them at the station and accompany them back here. But Matron Campbell, the last lot were more trouble than they were worth. Why have we got to take on these hoity-toity society types who have never known a moment of hard work? Now be fair, Lennox. A few haven't been up to snuff, but most have pulled their weight quite well. Tell me you'd rather be washing bandages and mopping floors instead of them. She had a point. The VADs had given them more time to focus on the patients where they were desperately needed. Still, they came here barely trained with grand ideas of being nurses, when the professional nurses had worked for years to earn the title of sister. It was beyond irritating. Matron Campbell, a fellow Scot, tolerated Joanna's irascible feelings on the subject, but at the end of the day, her word ruled. I've decided to put you in charge of this group and their training, Matron went on. Oh, you haven't done. Joanna was quickly silenced by the look, the one that made the younger girls nearly wet themselves. Matron was a kind and decent woman, but she could be very imposing when she had to be. You are one of my best nurses, Lennox, and I want these volunteers brought up to speed quickly. I have great faith in your ability to do just that. There was no point in arguing, so Joanna just grumbled and nodded. That's a good lass. There's a transport leaving in the morning that'll take you to the station to meet the train. How many are coming? I was told 5, 3 nursing volunteers, a cook, and a laundress. You'll primarily work with the nursing VADs, and I'll expect weekly reports on their progress and capabilities. Now I must join Dr. Samuel for rounds. Have you any questions, sister? Joanna sighed. Nay, matron. The older woman looked at her for a moment, gave a small smile and a wink, and left her to her work. By the next morning, Joanna couldn't help but feel a bit of excitement, despite the reason for her excursion. A driver took her, along with 6 soldiers deemed fit to return to their units, to Boulogne and dropped them at the entrance to the rail station building. She bid the soldiers farewell and good luck, then turned to the driver. I've got some supplies to pick up, sister, but I can meet you here when I've finished. Your new arrivals should be here by then. Thank you, Private. The young man touched his cap and drove off. Joanna stood on the worn wooden platform and took in her surroundings. She hadn't been away from the hospital for weeks, and she felt exhilarated by the different kind of chaos outside of its confines. Motorized vehicles and horse-drawn conveyances vied for space on the street, and old women in black shawls peddled apples and flowers to passersby. The busy hum of 100 voices was a welcome change from the moans and shouts of men in pain. Just beyond the platform, a sergeant barked orders to a group of soldiers, new arrivals by the look of their pressed khakis and clean puttees. She felt a pang of worry for the fresh-faced lads and contemplated the likelihood that some would end up in their wards at the base hospital. A distant whistle told of the train's impending arrival, and Joanna's thoughts reluctantly returned to her task. Was Matron off her head, putting her in charge of the volunteers? She was no teacher. She had little patience and even less tolerance for frivolity and nonsense. She was here to do her job and didn't need any interference. Still, Matron Campbell had been good to her, and out of respect for her fellow Scotswoman, she'd have to try her best. She watched as the train rumbled to a stop, the great black engine belching blacker smoke. In only a few moments, the platform was swarming with people as the passengers disembarked. She searched the crowd until, toward the far end, she caught sight of 4 heads clad in the white handkerchief caps of the VADs. The women stood still for a bit, looking around, until one seemed to take charge. She strode briskly in Joanna's direction, and the others followed in her wake like little blue and white ducklings. The leader was rather tall, like Joanna, and reddish blonde curls escaped from her cap. As Joanna stepped forward to intercept them, she turned startling blue eyes to her and smiled. Joanna almost smiled back, the woman's confidence and open, friendly face taking her by surprise. Remembering her role and wanting to establish her authority, Joanna schooled her features and spoke sternly. Ladies, I am Sister Lennox, and I will be taking you to the hospital to which you've been assigned. I was told to expect 5. Where is the other volunteer? Blue Eyes spoke right up, still smiling. Miss Andrews has taken ill and couldn't come. It's just the 4 of us. The others nodded wide-eyed. Joanna checked her list and called the names. The last name, Miss Eleanor Winthrop, belonged to Blue Eyes, and she nodded. Come along then, the transport should be waiting. Before Joanna turned to walk away, she noticed Miss Winthrop's smile falter as she exchanged glances with the others. Joanna felt a bit guilty for her brusque manner, but only a wee bit.
Yay, yay, wild applause from the crowd, screaming, yelling. Excellent. And that was my apologies. I have written on my piece of paper while my heart beats. But clearly my brain skipped a beat and I said the wrong word. So my apologies, my fault.
There's some breaking going along in there too. But that's okay.
Okay. Thanks for being sympathetic to me. Okay, so let's now hear from our next reader, Brenda Murphy.
Hi, Carleen, and hi, everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon, and thank you to the GCLS organizers for getting this together and giving us an opportunity to read. I really like doing that part, and I was sorry to miss the in-person part of this. I'll be reading from my book, On the Square. It's a small town romance, and it's the first in my new series. It's a University Square series, published with Ninestar Press. So in this scene, my leads, Dale and May, bump into each other in the bathroom as they're both fleeing terrible dating app dates. So from On the Square. Oh, hell, I'm sorry. May backed up, her cheeks burned. She plucked her shirt away from her body to hide the way her nipples had responded to full body contact with Dale. You scared the life out of me. Dale pressed her hand to her chest. What are you doing in here? And why didn't you lock the door? I was on my way out and truth, hiding from my date. What? Dale locked the bathroom door. Do you not feel safe? I'm only in danger of being bored to death. She expects me to rock her world for the price of dinner and drinks. My date thought drinks were a guarantee of getting into my panties too. May blinked as a vision of Dale in her panties raced through her mind. The shirtwaist dress she wore showed off Dale's pinup figure to perfection, and her black strap pumps had May wanting to kneel in the bathroom and follow the line of her graceful legs all the way to the top of her hose and beyond. You look terrific. Be that as it may, what's your plan, stud? Hide out here until she decides to leave? Dale rested her hand on her hip. Are you always this sassy? You've shared my house for 3 months and you don't know the answer to that? Want me to give you a boost so you can climb out the window? A taunting smile curved Dale's full mouth. May stepped closer, drawn by the teasing tone in Dale's voice. As Dale leaned towards May, her mouth drew tantalizingly close. Looks like we both didn't find what we were looking for. Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Small puffs of Dale's breath tickled May's lips. A knock rattled the door and made them both jump as the knob twisted back and forth. May? Out in a minute. May turned on the faucet. I paid the bill. We can go anytime, May, the woman shouted through the door. Looks like you're going to have to face her down. May squared her shoulders. Looks like. She shut the water off and stepped around Dale. She opened the door and walked out into the foyer of the restaurant. Dale followed her, snaked an arm around her waist, her breast pressing against May's arm. May froze. The excuse she'd worked up in the bathroom dried up in her mouth. Darling, why don't you introduce me to your friend? Dale rested her other hand on May's shoulder. May's date, Carol, leaned back and blinked. She narrowed her eyes at May. What is this? You said you were single. I'm no one's side piece or into three-ways. May failed to stifle her squeak as Dale tugged her closer. Nope, not single, and you're not our type. Sorry. Dale's bitchy tone and the heat from Dale's body as she pressed against her started to flame low in May's belly. Carol glared at May. I can't stand liars. She flounced past them, shoulder checking May as she left. I deserved that. No. Dale's sharp tone made May look up. Dale smoothed her hand on the front of her dress. No one should ever feel like they're obligated to provide sex in exchange for dinner and drinks. Thank you. Do they have Uber here? May pulled her phone from her pocket. Dale held up her keys. Want a ride? Unless you have other plans. May took the keys from Dale. Not now. Thank you.
Yay! Again, wild applause that we can't hear from the audience, but we know it's there. Excellent.
Thanks, Darlene.
Okay, let's move on. Nanisi, your turn.
Okay, I'm reading from In Helen's Hands. It's a book about a young woman in her 20s who is a pianist at a arts center. And the arts center does concerts with famous people 3 or 4 times a year. But this concert is with a person that Mickey is in love with. She has had a crush on her for years, and she's just so excited that she's going to be sitting not only in the same room, but on the same stage with her crush. I felt blessed to be among the 15-piece pit orchestra that had backed her final number in the concert. The world premiere of a 20-minute jazz cantata for singers, Helen's finest work to date. The Arts Center's professional singers, 4 men and 3 women, have been working in the music for weeks. I know because I played piano for every rehearsal, and Anne, my current lover, was one of the singers. I had thought I'd be jaded because we did this guest artist concert 3 or 4 times a year. I could add some of the best names to my resume. But this concert was Helen Robbins. There was no comparison. My childhood piano teacher had given me one of her records while I was still in high school, and I remember playing it until the grooves were worn through. She'd been my idol since I began playing serious jazz piano several years before. I couldn't believe I actually played on the same program with her, even if I was only the unseen piano player in the pit. This was so exciting. When I'd first seen her from the wings, Helen had seemed engrossed in a discussion with Jack, who directed the pit orchestra. She had on a dark red silk pantsuit that caught the light with shimmers of black silk and showed off her dark skin and trimmed figure. Her shoes were a very stylish low heel. Her makeup was absolutely stunning. Although she wasn't tall next to Jack, I could tell that she was a couple inches taller than me. Every move she made was graceful and flowed like her music. As I watched Helen, my mind couldn't help but imagine what it would feel like to feel those hands on my skin, those lips against mine, and feel that those arms wrapped around me. And there she'd been, no more than 20 feet away, going over music. I'd heard so much about her music and her style, and I'd listened to her recordings so many times that I felt as if I already knew her. But the reality of seeing her standing there, leaning casually against the piano, was something I hadn't expected. It took my breath away. And the concert had been breathtaking. The cantata had gotten standing ovation, and the audience hadn't let her off the stage until she played 3 encores. Now, at the party, she was ensconced in the far corner of the room with my boss, Andrew, as he played host, as person after person paid homage. All those who paid the extra couple $100 to get sponsor tickets so they could sit close in the concert and go to this party and drop her name at their next party. She laughed and talked amicably, sharing asides with Andrew, sipping from champagne glass, and waving a long brown cigarette. I was about to reach over the bar for my third rum and ginger when a long, graceful arm took my drink from the bartender and held it out to me. Andrews tells me you do transcriptions. I slowly turned, my eyes glued to the graceful, dark-skinned hand holding my drink, my heart beating a quick tattoo. I hoped my hand wasn't shaking so badly that I splashed the syrupy blend all over the place. Thank you, I said as I took my drink. Then I looked into Helen's clear, beautiful face. Her dark eyes seemed to bore through me, capturing me in a visible web. I transcribe and arrange some, I mumbled. Do you get to New York often? She asked as she reached for her glass of champagne. I could have melted on the spot for the warmth of her voice, and the light smell of her jasmine perfume started my head spinning. Was I starting to sweat? I can. Good. I'm writing an opera, and I hate taking the time to write the music when it's so much easier just to record my thoughts and have someone else write them down. I do have to let the singers know what they should sing. She chuckled, a dark contralto voice, then sipped her drink, gave me a warm smile as her eyes traveled the length of my body. I'll send you a tape. Call me. And with that, she turned and walked away. I just stood there holding my drink. I'm not sure how long. Something else, isn't she? The voice startled me. I'd been so engrossed in watching Helen that I hadn't heard Frank come up behind me. I turned and smiled. I'm not sure how to take all this, I whispered, not sure there was anything else happening in the room. Just take what's offered and say thank you, he chuckled. I shook my head. He knew me too well and had the nerve to call me on it. He knew my secret thoughts and was privy to all the indiscretions I'd had with both men and women while Anne was busy elsewhere. Too bad he was gay. He would have made an interesting lover. She asked for information on all the musicians in the orchestra tonight, Frank said. I nodded. Helen was known for taking a personal interest in anyone she shared the stage with. I'd read a quote she made. Making music is like having sex. When it's good and the music climaxes, it's nice to know who you came with. Thank you.
Yay. Wonderfully done. Outstanding. Okay, let's move on. Ginny, you're up.
How great to follow somebody who's writing about the greatness of music. Thank you, Carlene, and hello, everyone. It's great to see you. Well, I can't actually see you, but I can feel that you're there. I'm honored to be here today with you, and I'm really honored to have my book recognized by the GCLS. I've been a social activist my whole life, and so it really thrills me to see this flourishing of lesbian literature. I think women loving women have always written, but we have not always been published. And the fact that there are so many publishers now putting out this material is a testament to the many decades of work that's been done. In the 70s, there was a flourishing of music, and much of that came from lesbians and centered women in ways that were pretty much unknown in the popular music world. And that's what I wrote about. A small group of us started a women's record company called Olivia Records. We did a lot of groundbreaking work. We had a lot of fun. We produced a lot of music. And 50 years later, I got to write a book about it. Olivia on the Record, a radical experiment in women's music. And I'm gonna have to just show you my book. I'm gonna just read from the prologue. It's a cold night in December 1977 at the Oakland Auditorium in Oakland, California. Intermission has ended and the crowd of 2,000 has quieted as the band begins its set. The band is all women. Everyone working on this show, the stage manager, lighting designer, sound engineer, sign language interpreter, promoter, producer, childcare providers, and the entire crew is a woman. And at the end of the show, everyone will be paid. There are 2 long sets per half, actually 4 short sets each. The 4 short sets are performed by Meg Christian, Teresa Trull, Pat Parker, and Chris Williamson. The band is led by Linda Tillery, whose newly released album we are celebrating. She is backed by Alberta Jackson, Jareen Jackson, Chris Hansen, Vicki Randall, Diane Lindsay, Colleen Stewart, and Mary Watkins. It's the second night of this sold-out event. The first night was billed as especially for women, but even on the second night, there are far more women than men. Tickets went for $4.50 and were sold in women's bookstores all over the greater Bay Area. The concert is wheelchair accessible, which is not the norm in 1977. This was an Olivia Records event, and all these women recorded for Olivia. Olivia Records was a national women's record company founded by a group of lesbian feminists in Washington, D.C. in 1973. We were determined to change the music industry, but more than that, much more than that, we were determined to change the world, to overthrow the patriarchy and capitalism, to end racism and imperialism, to create a world where peace and justice and equity were not just words, but were righteous ideas to be embodied inside ourselves and fought for in the world. Feminism was not a laundry list of issues for us. It was a different way to understand and use power to benefit the whole, not to advantage the few. Yes, we wanted lots of things on that laundry list, and we wanted more. What we did would prove to be important. How we did it was just as important. As I stood in the back of the concert hall that night in December, I believed that this show, with these Black and white women on stage, with these women of all races and backgrounds working behind the scenes, was another step on the road towards our lesbian feminist revolution. We had big dreams, some might say ridiculous dreams, in what seemed like very dark and dangerous days. Richard Nixon was stirring up fear and resentment towards Black people, college students, and anyone who didn't agree with him. The war in Vietnam was still raging and thousands were dying. J. Edgar Hoover was using the FBI to infiltrate and help destroy radical political movements like the Black Panther Party and who knew who else. We had a vision that we held on to tightly and expressed constantly in every way we could. We made big mistakes and we learned from some of them. We kept moving. We had our hearts broken and we kept going. We were lesbians and we did the unthinkable. We centered our lives on women. The story people were told in the 1970s by the government and mainstream media about women's lib, as they insultingly called it, described the movement as a bunch of white middle-class suburban women who really just wanted their husbands to help more around the house. But there was a part of the women's movement of the 1970s that was visionary, revolutionary, anti-racist, and very grounded in women's real needs and aspirations. We understood that culture and politics were not separate, that each was informed by the other, and when consciously united, created a much more powerful force for change. We were going for hearts and minds. We did not want a piece of the pie, which we considered poisoned, contaminated by greed and the need to dominate. We wanted a whole new pie filled with love and justice and with enough for everybody. That is the spirit in which we created Olivia Records. This is the spirit behind this musically disjointed concert we produced in 1977. This is the story I am about to tell. I am not about to tell it because my time is up, but the rest of the story is in the book, and I thank you for listening.
Yay, outstanding. That looks like it's another book to buy, guys. Hence all the links to purchase the books in the chat, so be sure to click some of those links. Now let's hear from Georgia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this today. I'm Georgia Kalias, and I'll be reading from my novel, The Feasting Virgin, published by Bywater Books. I'm honored to have been nominated in both the general fiction and debut novel categories, and Anne McMahon was nominated for the beautiful cover design. I have an MFA in creative writing, and I'm also a graduate of the Golden Crown Writing Academy, for which I was honored to receive the Sandra Moran Scholarship. 38-year-old Xeni is secretly praying for a virgin birth, but when she unexpectedly falls for a free-spirited new mom during sumptuous and sensual Greek cooking lessons, she begins to realize that she must reconcile her traditional religious beliefs with her emerging sexuality. I'll be reading a section from the novel where Xeni and Callie meet and the slow simmer begins. Callie strode through the supermarket, pushing the shopping cart before her, talking to Manny, who was reclining in his infant car seat, firmly wedged into the cart. Daddy's so excited about your Greek granny coming. What do you think, little honey? Would Daddy like something Greek for dinner tonight? Maybe we can surprise him with something good. Callie ran through a list of Greek dishes, not letting the fact that she didn't know how to prepare them deter her enthusiasm. She'd eaten them all in restaurants that Gus had taken her to, and then sat and listened to him complain that they didn't come anywhere close to his mother's cooking. So let's see, there's moussaka, there's kebabs, there's spanakopita. Spanakopita, let's make that. Daddy needs more vegetables. What do you think goes into spanakopita besides spinach? Cheese, phyllo, maybe there's a recipe on the phyllo package. Or maybe we'll wing it. What do you think, Manny? You think I can pull off spanakopita without a recipe? Maybe I'll just go look at the spinach first. Callie turned her cart again and headed toward the produce section. This time her walk wasn't quite as sunny, her banter a little more subdued. Maybe we should have macaroni and cheese instead. That always makes me feel better when I feel grumpy. But she knew that macaroni and cheese wouldn't warm Gus's stomach or heart. It had to be Greek, and it had to be good. Good enough for Gus and for his mother. Callie swung the cart to a stop and wandered over to a pile of spinach and picked up a bunch in each hand. This will be fine. I think it'll be fine. Will it? She said. Callie wandered down the aisle looking for a plastic bag, and when she returned, she noticed a woman a few feet away talking to Manny. The woman turned her dark, intense eyes away from Manny to look in Callie's direction. Callie couldn't quite tell what her expression was. The woman wiped her eyes, pursed her pillowy lips, and seemed as if she was going to say something. Instead, she pulled her long, wavy brown hair back and quickly plaited it into a braid. Even though she was wearing shapeless drab clothes, Callie could see that the woman's body was soft and curvy. She's beautiful in a way that people might not notice, thought Callie, surprising herself with a sudden desire to speak to the woman. But before Callie could decide on something friendly to say, the woman spoke. You can't buy that spinach. What? Callie asked, still clutching a bunch in each hand. The spinach, it's all wrong. Why? Well, look at it. It's limp. It has no life. The woman took the spinach from Callie and shook it, causing the flaccid leaves to droop even further. But that's all they have, Callie protested. She was both mildly offended and curious about this stranger who was telling her what she could buy. What are you making? The woman asked. Spanakopita? Callie replied as if she was no longer sure. Spanakopita? Why? Callie shifted her weight, trying to stand a bit taller. I wanted to surprise my partner. He's Greek, and he's always talking about his mother's cooking, always, especially after he's eaten something I've made, no matter what I've made. And now his mother's coming to visit in like 6 weeks, and I have to cook for both of them. Are you telling me that you're trying to please a Greek man? No, wait. You want to rival his mother's cooking? The woman laughed. Callie started to flush. It was one thing to feel inadequate in the privacy of her own thoughts, and quite another for a beautiful yet bossy stranger to laugh at her. It's not funny. Don't laugh at me. The woman became quiet. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just... What? Callie asked. What did you say you want to make? Spanakopita? Yes, Callie sniffed. Okay, let me just show you a few things, all right? The woman put the spinach bunches back onto the pile. What can you show me? You don't know me, Callie said, straightening up. I don't know you, but I know spanakopita. The woman turned her attention to Manny and playfully pinched his chubby thigh. You look good enough to eat. Callie's eyes brightened as she watched the woman play little games with Manny. The woman led Callie through the supermarket and showed her how to pick the best ingredients to make a spectacular spanakopita. In the organic produce section, they found fresh, vigorous spinach and bunches of savory herbs. From the dairy section, she selected salty feta cheese, fresh farm eggs, and plenty of creamy butter, explaining along the way what to do with each ingredient, how to mix the filling and layer the phyllo. Manny sat and listened attentively from his position in the cart, mesmerized by the woman and her stories. Callie noticed how the woman's hands lingered over the fresh produce until she found just the right bunch of spinach, how she closed her eyes as she brought the feathery dill to her nose and inhaled deeply. She gently squeezed the cheese to test its firmness and checked each peachy brown egg for cracks. She never selected the item from the top of the display, instead searching the pile until she found the choicest ingredients. How do you know all this? Callie asked. Are you a chef? No, not a chef, the woman smiled. Well, what do you do? Callie asked. Oh, I have odd jobs. Sometimes I cook, sometimes I teach private cooking lessons. Sometimes I take care of babies. I'd be happy to take care of this little guy. The woman smiled at Manny. Callie looked into the woman's dark eyes and felt as if she was drowning into a pool of melted dark chocolate. There was something familiar about the woman, the color of her hair, the texture of her skin, the way she cocked her head when she said yes. Did you say you teach people how to cook? Callie asked, forming an idea as the words left her lips. Well, yes, but only Greek food, she replied. Do you know how to cook a lot of Greek dishes? Callie asked. I know how to cook all of the Greek dishes, she replied. I'm a Greek woman, and laughed. Suddenly, Callie realized why the woman seemed familiar. She could be a long-lost cousin of Gus's with her dark eyes and hair and olive skin. Of course, you're Greek. But there was something more about the woman that Callie couldn't put her finger on, but wanted to. She felt tempted to reach out and touch the woman's arm, to feel the muscles below her skin as she grasped the handle of a grocery cart. I know this might seem kind of strange since we just met and everything, but I have a feeling about you. Maybe you can show me some things. Would you consider taking on one more odd job? Would you teach me how to be a good Greek woman? Callie backtracked, flustered. I mean, how to cook good Greek food. The woman looked at Callie for a moment and then shifted her gaze to the baby in the shopping cart. He was sitting, pedaling his chubby legs and happily tugging at his mother's sleeve, which lifted higher, barely showing the edges of a tattoo. Oh, I'm not sure. I've been doing more babysitting lately. I can pay you for the cooking lessons. Of course, I'll pay you. How about if I pay you $50 if you teach me how to make spanakopita today? Callie felt that perhaps it was fate that put her in the path of this Greek culinary goddess. She held out her hand and said, I'm Callie, and this is Manny. What's your name? Callie's outstretched arm seemed to glow. Kseni, I'm Kseni, she smiled. Kseni, I'm so glad to meet you, said Callie as she reached out and put her right hand on Kseni's arm, revealing a luminous tattoo of an olive-skinned Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus. Kseni froze at Callie's touch, her eyes trained on Callie's tattoo. Won't you please teach me to cook? Callie put her hands together in prayer, begging Kseni to say yes with her oceanic blue eyes. I think it was a sign that we would meet here today, don't you think? Kseni rubbed her arm as if Callie's fingers had burned a mark on the muscles below, her eyes still wide at the sight of the tattoo. Well, yes, I suppose it was. Then she turned to Manny, grabbed his chubby leg, and said, Basefao. Thank you.
Well done. Okay, excellent. Authors, let's all come back on video now. Let's have some fun and chat and do all kinds of interesting things. So thank you, everybody. Those were some really great readings. There's Erin. She's in her car. She's on her way.
Yeah, driving to get my kid.
Okay. Well, remember, everybody, if you've got some questions, put those in the Q&A so we can ask these fabulous authors, these Goldie finalists. We can pick their brains. Erin, I'm going to ask this first question of you so that if you suddenly have to go, traffic, you at least get to answer this question. So what's coming next for you? Are you working on something new? What's on the horizon?
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Well, I mean, I absolutely had my muse stolen away by COVID, but she's returning slowly. And I am actually currently working on sort of a hybrid contemporary historical that is sort of I guess sort of a sequel to this one that I read from today, but otherwise quite different. It does involve some of the same characters, but farther down the road in history.
Okay. All right, great. Georgia, how about you? Do you have something coming up? I know this is your debut novel. Do you have anything new that you're working on?
I have a project that I'm working on about a young Greek woman who's taken back to Greece for an arranged marriage. And she meets twins. One is male and the other is a butch. And she's supposed to be set up with the male, but she would like to get with the butch. So we'll see how that ends up going. And there'll be cooking and food in that as well.
Sure. Nanisi, are you working on something right now?
I'm working on a lot of things. I have 2 new books coming out this summer, and I'm working on a third, which is a sequel to one that I wrote a couple of years ago called Power to Rise. It's also about a conductor. So
Okay, I see there's a A theme in your writing. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I was a professional musician for years and years. It's just that's why I know.
Well, there you go. There you go. That works. Ginny, do you have something new coming up?
Well, I'm not really an author. I'm really a social justice person, but actually this neighborhood group that I am a part of called Neighbors for Racial Justice has decided that we are going to write a book. And we've started writing it together, and it's actually going to be, it's an extraordinary group of women. It's a very unusual group, and it's a very unusual story, but it's going to be a while because we're writing it kind of collectively, which is not as fast as sitting down in front of the computer and writing. But, mostly I don't write. I try to change the world.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Good job. Brenda, how about you? What's on the horizon?
Oh, I have in June, I have an anthology that's gonna come out from Ninestar Press with my co-authors Megan Hart and Fiona Zed. And that's 3 paranormal romance novellas that'll release then. And then in September, I have the 3rd book in the University Square series, Bookends, that'll be out in September. And I'm currently working on the 4th book. I responded to the stress of COVID by simply playing a lot more with my imaginary friends. I think it went one way or the other for people, but at least on my computer, nobody died unless I wanted them to, which is what I always say is the best part about being a writer. You get to have that control over what's going on.
Sure.
So that's what's going on right now. And, I homeschooled this last year, and that worked out really well for everybody. So we'll be working on that again next year. So it impacts the future, but not as negatively as I imagined it would. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Well, my next question then, and Georgia, I'm going to start with you. Ha ha ha. What was your inspiration for writing this particular book? Where did the Feasting Virgin come from? Which sounded less naughty in my head.
The Feasting Virgin was actually inspired by my own pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage many years ago, and which was devastating to me because I didn't know that I'd miscarried until almost the first trimester was over. So I thought I was safely out of my first trimester, but instead found out that the baby had died several weeks prior, but I just never had a natural miscarriage. So I went through a lot of grief around that, and it made me feel really like I was losing my mind. And my way of dealing with it was creating this character, Xeni, who wanted to become pregnant by virgin birth. And for me, it felt like a good metaphor for lesbians trying to have babies because, we're doing it without men. We're doing it in this sort of like mystical way, and so it was just a way for me to channel my grief and also a way to let my spirit soar. And I also feel like the spirit of that baby really whispered the story in my ear.
Okay, great, excellent. Nanisi, how about you? Where did the idea for this story come from?
Well, part of it was autobiographical. I used to work in a arts center in Boston, the National Center for Afro-American Artists, and we would have guest artists come in 2 times a year. And one was a very famous jazz pianist that I adored. And she actually hired me to do some transcriptions for her. And then that was it. And then my mind just got, well, what would have happened if? So that's where I came from.
Okay, the what if, I like it. Erin, how about you? Where did you get the idea?
Well, my first 2 novels were contemporary romances, so but I've always really loved history, and I was trying to think of, I initially was going to write about maybe Vietnam or World War II, because like China Beach, I grew up watching watching that. But there's so much out there already, especially World War II stuff. And then I thought about World War One, and I'd never read anything about World War One, never saw anything like that at the time, really. And it seemed like it was a good rabbit hole to dive down, and I learned a ton and absolutely loved researching it and writing it as well. So hopefully it kind of filled in a little forgotten niche in the historical genre for people.
Okay, great. Now, Ginny, I guess we can all kind of figure out where your inspiration came from, but I guess what prompted you to actually sit down and say, and I'm going to write about it?
Well, so first of all, there were a couple of friends of mine, one of whom I think is on this webinar today, Tori Osborne, who leaned on me for years to write the book. And finally, I was knocked over from all their leaning. But what I think is why I decided to do it really is because I feel like, first of all, lesbian history is not very well documented, and we need to do that. If we're not going to do it, who's going to do it? And I feel like this was an important story to be told, and that there are things that we learned in the process of doing Olivia Records, of trying to create a basically socialist feminist business in the United States of America in the 1970s, that's important, that women today, activists today, can learn from, and can learn from our mistakes, and make their own new mistakes. And so it's just I just feel like it was important to document, and I think there's valuable information in here for women to understand about where we've come from and where we need to go, because we're certainly not there yet. Okay. So that's really why.
Okay, great. Brenda, how about you?
I live in a really quirky small town in the Midwest. And my other book series took place in Scotland and Italy, and was based on Oslo, like traveling, because my wife is in academia, and she would get invited to all these wonderful academic conferences, and we'd go all over the place. And fortuitously, we hadn't been able to travel as much even prior to COVID, because she took a new position where she doesn't go to conferences as much. And so I'm like, well, this small town series, because there's just so much material in a small town, and it's really different having a relationship in a small town, because particularly a queer relationship, because A, the pool is very small, and B, that leads to a lot of drama. Plus everyone's just in your business. Like, I have neighbors that one day, while I was just vacuuming out the window tracks in the fall, they basically decided on their divorce, shouting each other across the street. I was like, I turned the vacuum off for a moment, realized what a horrible argument was going on, and turned it back on so I didn't have to listen to it. But yeah, and I think for me, examining how it is to be an LGBTQI person in a small town and navigate the complexities of your relationship under a big magnifying glass, where everybody knows everybody, or at least has heard of everybody, or maybe dated everybody. It's really complex, and at the same time relatable to a lot of people. And I was really, I want to write about people who worried about paying the bills, or get a next job, or getting their kids to college, or all of that stuff, because I think that makes your characters relatable. And that's what the inspiration was for this series. Because they're all women who work with their hands, they have small businesses, they're not billionaires, just that realness that I was drawn to.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get that. Ginny, we do have a question specifically for you. How long did it take you to write this book about Olivia Records? And I know we can easily say decades, but from the actual sitting down and and typing. How long did it take you?
Well, to do the, okay, so I was part of, that's not, nothing is, I can't, there's not a straight ahead answer for that, but because once I decided to do it, I realized I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to write a memoir. I don't know how to do this, but I don't know if you all know a wonderful, important lesbian poet and author named Judy Grahn. And if you don't know her, I suggest you find her. But I know her. We actually recorded some of her poetry. And I wrote her, I sent her an email and said her memoir had just come out, also published by Aunt Lute, who published my book. I wrote to her and said, Judy, would you consider organizing a memoir writing class? And she said, well, you're the 5th person who's asked me, so I guess that means I should do it. So I actually wrote the first draft in the course of taking this class, which was about a little over a year. And then there were many, many revisions, of course. So, you know, from sitting down to write the first chapter until the final manuscript went to Aunt Lute was about 3 years.
Yeah, we are here at GCS. We're very familiar with Judy Grahn. She is one of our trailblazers.
Yes, she certainly is.
Yeah, so yeah, we know who Judy Grahn is. She's rather awesome. She's rather awesome. Okay, another quick round of questions. So Erin, again, I'm going to start with you just in case you need to fly away. So Erin, as a child, what was your favorite board game?
I rather enjoyed beating my sister's ass regularly in Boggle. I'm a really, really good speller.
Yeah. Boggle is a favorite of mine too. I agree. Georgia, how about you? Did you have a favorite board game or just game as a child that you just loved to play?
I love playing with my Barbies. Does that count?
Sure.
I would make up rather intricate storylines for them.
The beginning of your life as a novelist, right?
Yes,
there.
they had dramatic and exciting lives.
I'll bet. Yeah, I had a Barbie dream house, but I never had a Barbie. I never quite figured that one out.
Oh,
Whatever. I think that says a whole heck of a lot about my life. Brenda, how about you? Favorite board game or game as a child?
Oh, yeah. I'm a fairly kinetic person. So a lot of my games, I loved playing anything we could play outside. So, you know, softball, baseball, we had a pretty big backyard. So we almost always had a groove of like wiffle ball in the backyard. And my grandma was that grandma that would come and pitch because the rest of us were really bad at pitchers at softball. But my grandma kicked ass as a pitcher. Had absolutely no mercy. You know, she'd tag you out in a heartbeat. Didn't matter. You were a kid, you were out, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that was probably my favorite thing to play as a kid if we could play outside. Inside, we played a lot of cards because, you know, the other thing my grandma was really good at was poker and used it as, you know, we played penny ante poker and, you know, every rainy afternoon. So, you know, I didn't have that grandma. I had the other grandma.
Yeah, I had the grandma who taught us how to play jacks and how to dribble a basketball between her legs. So
right, there you go.
I feel you. Nanisi, how about you? As a kid, did you have a favorite game or a favorite board game or?
Not a game, sort of, but we were jigsaw puzzle makers. We did jigsaw puzzles all over the place.
Okay,
That was it.
that could be
I did
considered a game.
little skating, but that was it.
Okay. And Ginny, how about you? Any fun games as a kid that you enjoyed?
Oh yeah, I played like Brenda, I was a baseball player. And in fact, I believe it's probably true that if I had been allowed to, and I was very good, I have to say I was very good. If I had been allowed to play Little League and, you know, go on to, which girls couldn't do in my day, probably I wouldn't have become a lesbian feminist revolutionary. I probably would have been just happy as a clam playing baseball for the rest of my life. But these things happen.
Those things do happen. That they do. Okay, we've got just a few minutes left here. Not that much time. So for the purposes of not taking up your entire lives, because I don't believe in that. You all have lives, you have things to do. Let's keep this to an hour. I, on the other hand, could have no life and could talk to you 4 hours, but I won't put you through that kind of hell. I hope that everybody in our audience today takes the time to go check out more finalist spotlights that are coming up over the next few weekends. There's a lot more. We've done 4. We've got 10 more to do. So come join us for those. And I really also hope that everybody takes the time to check out our virtual conference this summer. And hopefully that you will join us at our virtual conference. And then if you like that, come join us in Albuquerque next year when we're all face to face. And we truly believe it's going to be a hug fest. Because we haven't, this GCLS is a family, and we haven't seen each other since July of 2019. So it's going to be a hug fest. I hope you'll all check it out and come. And also, the last day, July 31st, is our Goldie Awards ceremony. So I hope we're going to be seeing a lot of people there as we give out these fabulous awards. Thank you all so very much for taking the time out of your day to share your wonderful writing. Congratulations yet again on being named a Goldie finalist. Thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Carleen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a fantastic day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.